Don't talk about it. No one should know. Okay, looks like we're recording. We are live. And hey, this is Tony Ross for Tonyteach.com. I've been away for a half a minute. Well, probably longer than that. Anyway, so I was jumping around on the internet looking up different tutorials and stuff, and I came across this channel called Stylus Rumble, and started talking with the incredibly talented Tracy Strong, and I was like, we have so got to do a hangout. Like I want to share her work with other followers or with my followers, because it's like, it looks like you're brand new, and it's like I want other people to know about you. So without further ado, why do I feel like I'm messing up your name? Is it Tracy Strong?
Yep. It's
okay, cool.
As simple as you think.
Okay. It's like okay. I don't know if you want to actually show up on camera or not, but if I can jump over to your screen if you want.
Well, I'm screen sharing now, so you can't see me.
Cool. Can't see you. You're screen sharing. Okay. Well, cool. Well, we'll jump back to my screen. So, we were talking about different things we could do, and I looked at a lot of her. What was it? The one that really got me is where you did the I guess it's cheap, quick effects to do.
Oh yeah, my cheap and dirty effects.
Oh my gosh, I so love that, and I'm gonna we're doing Google Hangout now. This is live. I'm gonna have to come back in and drop in notes and little links to this where it's talking about to the different videos we're talking about. But for me, I love that because it's always I always talk to people like, you have your hamburger clients and you have your steak clients.
Oh, it's so true. Super true.
It's like I want this. It's like, how much are you paying me? I was like, okay. My favorite example is I'll tell people like, my hamburger client, they say they want a bird flying. Okay, I'm making 2 wings and then I'm going to twist the heck out of them.
It's like, skew. Just 100% skew.
Yes. And then the other person goes, I have this budget, and you go, oh, you're my steak client. I'm going to go to Edward Muybridge.
Yeah, girl, I'm going to hand animate this bird every feather. You want a peacock? I'll give you a peacock.
Yes, I'll get a peacock fusing with a chameleon. It's awesome. You'll love it. Which, by the way, flying peacocks are awesome, which I don't know why people don't actually animate that enough, but anyway.
Yeah, they tendinitis.
Point taken. Okay. So the idea I had was one of my favorite cheap tricks is doing a, let me make sure I'm actually showing my screen. Can you see my screen? Am I showing my screen? I think I am. I wanted to do smoke, and I wanted to show this little trick that I did, and I don't spend enough time drawing, which, yeah, I was paying attention to. You did that thing the other day of like, dang it, didn't mean to do that. Where you said, do you have to know how to draw? And I was just like, shut up, Tracy. Like, I started off as an illustration major, but I was very slack, then switched over to computer art. And almost everything I do right now is like, I consider myself not an illustrator or even an animator. I'm more of I teach more, and which, by the way, let me explain to you why you're here. More than an art snob, I am a tutorial snob. And there's only a few of us, a small handful of people that actually do Toon Boom tutorials, and a smaller handful of people who do them well. You're one of those people, which is why you're here. But yeah, anyway.
Well,
so
the reason I started the channel was because, well, first of all, because I have a background in rigging, I always have people in the studios who are like, you have to teach me how to rig. And I'm like, well, you know, you have a week, like it's not a tiny thing. So right. They're like, well, make some videos and you could just pass those around. And that's how I started, was just making the rigging videos for like my friends.
Okay.
And then, you know, people started watching them. Like cool. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll make a few more videos and we'll just see how far this goes.
Coolness. I mean, I I train people, like I would do one-on-one training with people, and I use Google Hangout, and I was doing a Google Hangout one day and forgot to make it unlisted or private. And so it was live, and I was like looking one day, I was like, why does this have 8 likes on it? Oh my God. Like, so yeah, like you never know. So here we are. Here's the little trick that I like to do, and evidently my computer's running slower today, but I'll do like these little blue scribbles. Then I go to my next frame, and again, we're doing some smoke here. Turn on your onion skin. Why are we seriously not turning on? Oh my gosh, what's up with my computer today?
It's because it knows that's on the camera.
Yes. Okay. And so I will just start breaking apart little things like these little scribbles.
Yes, the popcorn poof.
Yes. I like that name.
Yeah, there's the popcorn poof, and then the chew away poof is how I describe the other poof.
Okay, you're gonna have to show me the chew away. Chew away poof.
Yeah, no, you'll probably recognize it once I draw some stuff, but it's really common in Flash because the Flash drawing tools are like using a brick. So the least amount of drawing you can get away with.
Okay, so basically, I'm just doing these little scribbles. And then I like doing this because it's like I think I am probably going to migrate to only I'm kind of leaning, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to start leaning toward just doing Toon Boom essentials as far as my tutorials.
Yeah.
Because one, I kind of lean toward beginners.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's me. And I have to make sure it's not just because the network scares me, or the node feed scares me.
It's the best part of Toon Boom.
I'm sure it is. I started playing with it the other day. It's like, okay, I can see I could get into this. So literally now I'm going to lock this layer. Make another drawing layer. We'll add and close. And let's go here. Let's turn on where's my light table? Seriously, bruh? Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Where did my light table go?
Just press the light bulb in your bottom left corner.
There he is, I'm about to say. Thank you.
I got you.
That's why I have you. That's why I have you here.
I'm just gonna draw over your work when you're done.
All right, so
smoke is great, and like little dust poofs. The first job I got as an effects, the second job I got as an effects assistant on like a real production, because my first job was in a wood shop that they converted into an animation studio. Oh, wow. But my first real job on a television show, I was the compositor and then a effects assistant, and he just gave me all the dust. He's like, so every time these guys step on sand or dirt like that and you think a dust poof should go there, put in a dust poof. And so the guy next to me just be like, hey, Dusty, how are you doing today?
It's like, I worked in the dust mines of the animation company for a while.
It's so true. If you get into an effects job, that's the first thing you do. You do all the water ripples around stuff like rocks and reeds and stuff, and you do the dust poofs on the boring stuff, not big dust poofs. Like if it's a cool one, that goes the effects lead. They usually take all the gimme shots for themselves, so like the real cool stuff, and then they give, if they have an assistant, because right now I don't have one. Okay. So I just do everything myself, but usually the junior gets all the garbage. But when it's your first job, you're happy to get it. You're like, yeah, give me that dust.
All right. So I went in and I did, I just went in and just kind of on my different layer, just kind of drew out the black outline here. I am a sucker for leaving large gaps in my work. I love to do that. It kind of makes it, and it's very, Sunday morning comic or the comic strips. Back in my day, there were newspapers, so
Yeah.
that's what I kind of
I
like that.
remember
Like
those.
those are awesome. So I'm going to do now. I'm going to simply press the letter K so I can see my outlines. And then I'm going to go to stroke and kind of close some of these larger gaps here.
Alt V, gotta learn your hotkeys.
What did I do?
Gotta use your hotkeys.
What did I do? What hotkey did I not use?
Stroke.
I said use. I said K. Well, mine is K. What?
No, K is to show strokes. To get the stroke tool is Alt V.
Ah.
You gotta use every hotkey. When I'm animating, it's like playing a piano. I'm just slamming that keyboard.
Yes, there are. And for those of you who are listening who are not in the industry, there are jobs that literally say if you don't know your hotkeys, don't bother applying. So it's like.
Well, I've been I'm sitting down with a junior, like a baby animator, is what I call juniors. So I'll sit down with the baby, and they're reaching for every tool, and I'm like, kid, man, you're spending half your day picking out tools. Like you gotta put it on a post-it note and just stick it to your desk, the ones you use the most.
Good argument.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you just learn one a week, eventually you'll know them all, and then you save yourself a lot of time. Because in TV, time is everything. You just have too much to do it all the time, right?
Right.
So 10 seconds here, 20 seconds there, it all adds up.
I'm trying to think. Have you ever been quote unquote traditional? Like, have you ever been an animator on paper, or have you always been digital?
I went to a school that really valued the old school animation, so we didn't touch a computer until the 3rd year.
Okay.
The 1st year was all like drawing basics, life drawing, perspective, like hardcore drawing skills. Then the 2nd year was animation on paper. So we sat down with the desks and the light tables and did it the old-fashioned way. But I haven't done it since then because it is so much slower. And because, I mean, Cintiqs now, like the technology is so good that you don't really feel like you're drawing with a brick, like Flash. Because when I started, I saved up my money when I got my first job. I was 15 and got a computer and a tablet, and I was drawing in those old, MS Paint.
Okay.
And there was a huge discrepancy between drawing digitally and drawing on paper. You always felt like you could never quite achieve it. But with modern programs, and Toon Boom has such good drawing tools, they're like buttery goodness that it like just classically animating with a Cintiq now is just as good and intuitive as drawing on paper, I find.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I've gone through and I've cleaned up all my lines here, and with me not so yeah. That's okay. Maybe that'll be the first quick key that I learn of my tools. I don't think I know any of them. So,
I'll just close my eyes.
Okay. But yeah, I think I know to hold on my space bar.
Nice. Love it.
So I've got that done. Now I'm gonna grab regular paint, grab my white here, and I'm going to do, where are my little, oh yeah. That's the one fun thing. Let me ask you this. Are you working at 720p as far as your monitor?
I don't know.
The reason I'm asking is like when I started doing tutorials, like recording, when I recorded for Linda, actually I was recording, did a lot of stuff for Creative Cow, and this is years ago. And when I started doing a demo for Linda to try to get a spot there, they're like, your screen is tiny. You need to switch it to 720p. I was like, okay. And my wife's a graphic designer, and so whenever she gets on my computer, she's like, it's huge on here. I know, but it's so people can see what you're doing. Okay, so I want to do
native resolution, whatever it's usually set to.
I'm going to do paint unpainted. And I think let me use my marquee. I'm just going to click and drag. Boom. And let's go to the next frame.
Well, you can do all the frames at one time.
I'm going to click and If they're connected, though, isn't it? Don't they have to be overlapping?
No.
They don't?
No. You just need a bigger marquee.
You have to show me that. You have to show me. Wait a minute. Why did that not work? Seriously, dude?
There's a tiny gap.
There's a tiny. I'm gonna. Okay, let's see if I can do this one trick. I'm gonna shrink this down. Seriously, dude. Okay. Close them up out.
It's because it knows you're being watched.
It's like that's the one trick I learned in Flash. Like if the gap thing isn't working, if you zoom out and then try to fill it, it goes, okay, now the gap is small enough. It's weird.
Yeah, I find the closed gap tools just frustrating.
Really?
Because I'm really anal retentive. Like I'm sure you kind of get that from when I'm talking. But if I have a straight where I want to curve, that upsets me. So it never, like, it'll just make a straight line where my gap is. I'm like, this isn't a straight object. This is a poof. It's got to be organic and curved. I definitely spend more time than I should tidying up things that are going to get blurred later. Like, I know I'm doing it. I'm like, Tracy, stop. Okay, it's time to stop. Just move on. But I'm like, this isn't a perfectly crisp edge.
Well, it's like I would get on like I used to teach like this high school thing that was like, it was pretty much a week of drawing, or excuse me, like a week to 4 weeks of animation training when they hadn't done anything, and they'd spend all day. I'm like, that little thing you're doing is going to be seen for a fraction of a second. Move on. It's like, keep going. Which the other part of that is like, I mainly do cutout or limited animation. My other pet peeve is where people are doing, I'll say something like, you're not, you only have to draw this once. Like, make it pretty. Don't make it look like crap, because you're going to be using it over and over. So,
I've seen some pretty spectacularly bad mouth charts. I'm looking at them like, like, that thing's forever.
It's like what is it? My late mentor used to say, anime, they have two mouth positions, open and close.
They do. That's totally true.
It's like, that's how I can be in multiple languages with no problem. So I think we're done. Let's see if I play the sucker. Loop, you silly. And of course I'm at 24, so it's going to be crazy fast.
Just put it on 2s or 4s.
You're going to tell me this quick. Anyway, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but we'll say. Stop doing the caps lock shift, damn it. Extend the exposure, set to 2. Boom.
There you go. That's how I would have done it.
Okay, that's good to know. It's like,
there are some things that don't have hotkeys.
I was like, for me, I try not to go in and change too many, mainly because, again, it's like I'm training and teaching people, and it's bad enough when they go, my screen doesn't look like your screen. I know, I added stuff.
Yeah, I'm totally unapologetic about that. I'm like, this is an intermediate class, guys. Like, if you don't know where the node view is, I highly recommend going to tons. There's plenty of people who are there for you. You can just leave your feelings in the bucket on the way in, because I am ruthless when I'm training people. But I do believe that you have to train them the long way first. So before I show them a hotkey, I'll always show them where to find the setting. Okay. Because otherwise, when they forget the hotkey, they can't find it again.
And that's probably one of the hotkeys that I do know. Someone had to catch me recently. I would keep going through the hotkey, and it's like, and where do we find that? I'm thinking, why do you need to know where to find it? I just gave you the hotkey. It's like, but yeah, I am jumping over to your screen. Quick question: Where does the name Stylus Rumble come from?
Oh, okay. So one of the long-term goals I have for this channel is to do a drawing game show. Okay. So all my friends are animators because we don't get out much. We live in the studio, so we only have each other. And so I got a group of my friends together. We get together every Wednesday and we draw. This is before kids happened and grown-up life. And so I was like, okay, I want to do this game show, but we need a name for it. And we were just shooting back and forth ideas. and one of them suggested Stylus Rumble, which is so good because we're all doing like a digital drawing competition.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it suits the competition really well, but it's like a tutorial name. I guess it makes less sense. But then when I started doing tutorials, I'm like, yeah, I've already made the channel and the art. I'll just throw it up on top of that. Yeah. So maybe maybe at the end of the winter or something, we might actually have a couple episodes. I do have pilot episodes I haven't edited of this competition. But it's definitely something I want to do long term. It's too much fun not to do it.
Very
so
cool.
You're following me now?
We are watching you.
Right. So my thing with smoke, because I'm a drawer at heart, is I want to know the three-dimensional form of the smoke.
Okay.
So I won't just draw a flat shape. I'll actually think of what the form is as a sphere. So my poofs usually actually look like this, where I've given them a little bit of volume. Okay. And I also need to know which way they're going. So if something's hitting this way, then my smoke is going to go this way, right?
Okay.
And if my smoke is going straight down, then it's going to come out this way. So I spent a lot of time on dust. So if I'm doing just like a center out dust like you've done, I'll think of like, where's my center point? And then I'll bring my poofs out from that. And I'll think about the trajectory of each one in a three-dimensional way.
Okay.
So this one's coming towards the camera. This one's coming more this way, like that. And I might have one coming this way. Because I've done this about 1 million times, though, I don't have to do as much work as I once did to get that stuff, because in a lot of the stuff is in my head. And I also really spend the time thinking about how to keep it from getting too symmetrical.
That's one of the things I always end up getting in trouble with.
Well, it's so easy with effects because they're not like with a character, they're solid shapes, right? So your arms kind of got an idea of how long it is when you start, and your torso. So the designer can spend the time worrying about keeping it from being too symmetrical and getting all that flair in there. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not a great designer, is because I'm too anal. So when I'm designing a character, I'm thinking, oh, this would be really hard to rig, and this is going to be a problem because there's too much texture or whatever. So all my characters end up looking very symmetrical and boring for that reason.
I got a question for you.
Yep.
It looks like you went in and custom changed your onion skin colors.
Yeah, I'm not great at green and red.
Okay, I was about to say, because I noticed that the other, I was like, that's kind of cool. I was like, so that's your personal choice and not the studio always did this. And
oh no, that's just because sometimes green and gray are the same for me, depending on the hue. So it's easier for me to see this. Oh, similar to you here, I'm doing the popcorn method.
Okay.
Where I'll just start breaking it up into shapes. And I really like to think about like keeping that sameness out. So you want like this one, you've got 2 little bumps and a big bump. This one, you've got a big here and then a little here. And I just try and keep the shapes from getting too samey. Because they're amorphous shapes, like your brain always wants to fix stuff to make it the same. And when you're working with something that doesn't have a solid form like a human, because I got off on that tangent earlier, it doesn't have any frame of reference. So almost all baby effects animators have very samey looking poofs or splashes. Like their splashes are like this. You know what I mean? Like it's very even across the board. Just because your brain does it, and if you're not actively fighting it, then it's just going to happen.
I'm loving that name, baby animators. It's such a cool thing.
It's so true. It's funny because a lot of these guys, they get out of places like Sheridan or whatever other big name studio they're coming from, and they were the best in their class, right? And they think that matters. Like they come out and they're like, I was the best one there. It's like, yeah, but you were the best out of a pool of infants. Like, my 2-year-old is not the best runner, but the best runner in his preschool is still not going to outrun me, and I'm not in shape. I just have longer legs than he does, you know? But he's still a 2-year-old. And there's so many things you just learn through experience that you have to be in a studio environment to learn, because it's just, I mean, you just don't have the time. There are guys who come out of the schools and they're so good, but they might not have the organizational skills to work at the pace you need to maintain. Or worse than that, worse than not having the chops, is having too big an ego. Right. So, you know, they've been told they're the best their whole life, and the teachers even told them they're the best, and they're like, oh, you're gonna do great things. So then they come into the studio and the director's like, I hate everything you do. And either, and it's not that the work is bad, it's just maybe it's the wrong style. You know, like, right. They grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, and now they got to work on like Hello Kitty, Princess Magic Time, right? And it's like, well, this is really cool if it was a fight scene, but it's a little girl making cupcakes, so you're going to have to chill, right? And they either get really emotional because their feelings are just, they don't have that tough skin to be told they're not doing something right, or they fight. So they tell the director, no, but this is what I was doing. And the director's like, I don't care what you were doing. This is my dream. Like,
I've tried to tell so many people that, like when I was teaching college, I had a rule of I would not call my student. I would tell them day one, I was like, I'm going to call roll. This was the last time you hear your name from me until you've earned it. And I was like, if by the end of the semester, I'm not calling you by, it's that your work sucked, and that's not my fault. And so it's the whole thing of, yeah, I'm good. It's like, and the other lecturer was like, yes, let's say if you're really, really good and the president of the school comes down and says, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. I'm going to write you a check right now, a full refund for all the money you spent. You're the best artist that the school has ever seen. I said, but what if the school sucks as a whole? So you're the best, you're the best stuck. So what does that say about you? It's like,
yeah, you're the best toddler runner there is.
So it's like, if you're trying to go work for Disney, or if you're trying to go work for Nickelodeon or Pixar, then your work needs to look just as good, if not better. And just aim for that.
Yeah. Well, it's always you aim for the job you want.
Right.
And you don't, and like, you don't expect to get that as your first job.
Yes, it's like what is it? I forgot what it was. I said go to the drugstore. Some designer, I said you don't get to do like I'm gonna do like the WWE motion graphics. So somebody had to do the Preparation H commercial. You know.
Yeah.
Somebody had to do that logo design. So it's not all gonna be like bright and shiny stuff.
Well, when I started, I wanted to go to Disney. Like, I wanted to be a 2D Disney animator. That was my dream. And then it didn't exist after. But now that I've been working for a long time, the bigger the client, the like less I'm stoked about the job. My favorite clients are the ones that are just like tooth and nail in it out of a wood shop. Here, so that's the popcorn Poof.
Okay.
And that's my rough.
So,
like I said, I get super detailed because I just have a problem. But once I'm done this, I'll do my cleanup on my line, because I've been working on my color art. I didn't mention that. Okay. But now I'll work on my line, and I'll give it I'll do my darks first, and then I'll do my lights next. So I'll use my recolor, my repaint brush.
Okay.
And I'll do my highlights over the top like that. Because this shows I've been working on mostly like super blurred shadows. So once it's finished, I'll throw a blur on there. Mm-hmm. And I'll just hide my color art. So I'll deactivate the color art in here and then just ramp up the blur. And if you got a little bit of highlight and a little bit of shadow, it looks like a cloud as opposed to like the 2D Poof. But I mean, that's a style thing. And if I'm getting really crazy, I'll put in a third layer of highlight.
Good grief.
And it starts looking really round. I think I can show you some finished ones I have.
Hold that thought 1 second.
Yeah.
Key, are those fireworks?
It sounds like guns.
Okay.
Cool.
It's like
maybe shut the blinds.
it's like I hate those. Like that's not a normal sound, and we're very close to the police department. So I'm like, what you doing?
Yeah.
Sounds like it's in the cemetery. Might be.
Yeah, if you disappear like suddenly, I'll be freaked out. Okay?
No, don't. I'm not terrible. It was more of a hey. That's not what is that?
All right, so this is one I did, and sometimes, like I said, I get into details, so I've put in just like little swirlies.
Okay.
Because I think they're cute, and you'll never see them.
It's like I'm like, are you trying to write something there? It's like
no.
like
well, people ask me all the time. They're like, "Do you hide stuff like when you work on these shows?" So this one doesn't have a big highlight on it, but once it's blurred, it looks like a poof.
That's so awesome.
Thing. The chew away method. I can.
I've never blurred my smoke. That's I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, well, a lot of shows now are starting to do 2D, 3D hybrids. So if you put a real iconic smoke next to a character with shadows and highlights on it, it looks weird.
Okay.
Like Ever After High is one that I worked on, and it's so super detailed that if you were to throw like an iconic poof next to them, it would just stand out like a sore thumb. So it's a real style thing. Like a Rick and Morty show, they don't blur their effects because it doesn't make sense with the style, right?
Right.
The chew away method is more of a flashy style. So you'll have something iconic like this, heading like up and out in that direction. Doop. It's basically just the outside edge is slower than the inside edge.
Outside's okay. So are you working on a Cintiq?
Yes. When we got married, I told my husband, I'm like, you know what we should do with the money that our family gave us? We should buy a Cintiq for me that you can't touch. And because he's a wonderful human being, he was like, yep, that sounds good to me.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had it now for probably 6 or 8 years. I don't know how long I've been married. I should check the certificate. Where's the hole? I'm trying to fill it. This is how I fill holes. It's not efficient at all.
Which by the way, you still have to show me how you're saying you're going to do all the frames even if they're not touching. And I'm like, how would you do that? That's like freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah, so this is the chew method, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
People are always like, what do you call this? I'm like, poofy swoosh. Like, effects doesn't have like real names for things. And then it just kind of tapers away as it.
Okay.
So if you check out effects, there's tons of effects on Pinterest. It's like my second home. I love Pinterest. And you'll see a lot of these if you're checking out Flash style stuff.
Okay.
Like I said, drawing's a pain. So they do this sort of stuff. Which you can compare to this popcorn method. And I talk about it a bit in my classical effects video where I would do this if I was working on something that was more graphic and punchy. So like a boy show that's like less sophisticated or whatever. But on a cutesy show, which for some reason is what I keep getting drafted on, I usually stick to the popcorn method because it suits the more girly princessy sort of shows.
Interesting.
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into the design of effects, because it
like,
is my livelihood. Because a lot of people don't think about it. It's kind of like the forgotten department in the studio.
Well, I think if you do it right, no one realizes it's been done anyway.
Well, exactly. Like you're not the star of the show at all.
Right. But it's like, if it's not there, you know, it's like, it's like if you recognize the rain in a scene, then it wasn't done correctly. It's like,
if that's what you're watching.
Yeah.
I had a shot recently where I was like, I'm the star of the shot, and I made everything way too big, and the director's like, dude, everything is way too big. Like, this whole sequence needs to be fixed. I'm like, I got too excited. I'm sorry.
It's like, but it looked cool, right?
This is my time to shine. Don't take it from me.
It's like I do a lot of political work, which it's kind of weird to do because it's for me it's a mental drain. So it's like it's like surprise to any of my viewers who don't know this. Speaking as an African American, when I had to do a piece on Rush Limbaugh, and it's like I had to dig up all the different quotes he had said. It's just like, oh my God, this is so depressing. It's like, I can't work today.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be under this blanket.
It's like oh my God, he did not say that. No, God, please. It's like, and so you have to, that's the weird thing. It's like, I wish I was working on something poofy at that point. It's like,
yeah, there's a reason I stick to cartoons. It's just, I don't have the stomach for like real life. I just never got over being a child.
I think it's, let me ask, I'm trying to think. So it's almost literally like you've got, I don't want to say girl effects and boy effects, but it's almost like there's more masculine or feminine direction you go with them, depending on what you're working on.
I think there's a huge spectrum based on the style of the show and the audience, because you're not going to do a big scary explosion for a 4-year-old, regardless of what the show is.
Okay.
But if you're working on something like After Dark, like my apprentice, I call him, the guy who I trained on the last show, he did this amazing graffiti style effects. And so when we were working on Ever After High together, and the first, I'm like, okay, you got to do this little like poofy explosion, but it's like they're doing a little chemistry thing and it kind of blows up in their face. And the first one he did was this like rolling death cloud. And I was like, well, cool. This is terrifying. So we're just going to put this in the apocalypse folder. And if it ever comes up, we've got it as stock. This is cool. So just try it again. Maybe put some little cutesy hearts or something in the poof. That'd be nice. Like hide some little cutesy stuff. And he's like, okay, I'll try it again. And he's like a 40-year-old French guy, okay? So he's like smoking a cigarette with a glass of scotch. I'm like, can you just make that really cute with hearts? He's like, yeah, fine, okay.
That is awesome.
So the second bout, he did it and he put a heart in, but it looked like this stringy heart being like torn apart. I was like, oh, cool. So I'm never going to sleep again. Let's try it again. But this time, you know, maybe go towards cartoon heart as opposed to heart of your enemies, right? And he's like, okay, cool. So he did it a third time because I was brutal with this guy. And he's amazing. His art is amazing. The third time he did it, it was so cute. And there was little hearts and he even put sparkles in there. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. It's perfect. And he goes, I hate myself. I'm like, now you know that you're ready. That's when you know. Because you're selling your soul just 1 gig at a time.
But it's like the whole thing of where I think, and it's like you have to, for me, I always get in trouble because I'll say I don't like working with clients. Because it's like,
that's why I'm not a freelancer.
It's like they'll come in and they'll go, oh wow, you did this incredible thing with your vision. Help me work on my vision. And then their vision is like, I had this idea for a logo. It's a smiley face with a toilet bowl on his head. And I'll go, why would you do that? it's like, and I'm going, and then I even get back to the whole, is it a hamburger client or is it a steak client? Yeah. Are they paying me enough to question it? Like, here, your hamburger client. I'm not going to tell you why this doesn't work. Here,
yeah, or does he have steak money and hamburger eyes? Because those are the best clients.
Oh my gosh. There was The weirdest thing for me.
I'm gonna do this fill right quick before we get into it. So this button here, apply to multiple drawings.
Right.
You can either go across or you can go down. So down means it's going to go from your overlay to your underlay, and across means it's going to go across whatever you've selected here. I can never remember if you have to select first or second, but you just circle whatever your stuff is in. And as long as you fill your gaps in, which I clearly didn't, then it's going to get everything in one shot.
You're kidding me. I thought,
no.
Okay.
I usually just I do it this way to fill this stuff in. I'm not filling those gaps. Forget that.
Holy moly. That's okay. I was using that the wrong way.
Yeah, I can't remember if you select first and then click, or you click and select. I always check that part up, but it is much faster than this way.
That is, wow. I'm geeking out here, man.
Dude, shortcuts, like you learn these little like tidbits along the way. That's why I watched beginner tutorials, because I've watched everybody who's got Toon Boom tutorials out there. I've watched all of them because everybody has something to teach you. Even that baby animator that comes through the door, they might have this little nugget of knowledge that you don't have, right? Because everyone has a different base of knowledge. They've read different books, they've watched different movies, they have different interests, and you never know where you're going to pick up little stuff like that.
It was kind of funny. There was a long-time friend of mine, Tony Grillo, and I kept saying, dude, you got to get away from Flash. Let me show you Toon Boom. So I teach him Toon Boom. He hires me, and I'm teaching him all the stuff. And so a couple of weeks later, after we've ended all the lessons, he's working on this Toon Boom project. And he's like, yeah. And I come over, and I'm watching him work, and he did something. I was like, wait, what did you just press? What did you just do? I was like, where is that? Show me that button. I was like, it's like, good grief.
Yeah,
I'm liking this
color deep program. So
yeah, it's because everyone's talking about it has this massive learning curve. I think the happy and unhappy thing is the fact that there's one book right now which is by Adam Phillips.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah, good grief. I've been a fan of his since when he was doing stuff in Flash.
Me too.
And it's just like, I call him Uncle Bitey, because he's like, when I was first learning how to use stuff, it was kind of cool to be exchanging emails with him. Like, he was on an email, and some people from Toon Boom were on an email. I was like, hey, how do I do this? And he's telling me like, I was doing a rain effect, because I've always done rain because I was never really working with premium. I'll always do a rain effect where I'm moving a PNG, usually a PNG, or just like a vector trace thing. And I was like, well, I'm pushing the camera through the scene. How do I do this? And he's like, oh, just attach it to the camera and bring it right in front of the camera. Excuse me, attach it to the camera peg. And I was just like, that's brilliant. And so I started using that, use it for the little video recorder Flash and everything, or the little recording button, all that stuff.
Yeah, it is.
It
is definitely a learning curve program. I was lucky that my first job was in such a shambly little studio, because when I got there, they hired a bunch of us out of school as interns. This was my third year of college.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like problem solving. It's just like a thing I enjoy doing. So rigging, when I first started, was just a puzzle. And I was like, oh, I have to master this puzzle. How can I make this easier? How can I fix these elbows so that they're cheaper? Like, how much time could I save? And just because I kind of had an interest in it, they were like, okay, well, you can be the lead rigger on the show. I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, well, you've rigged 2 characters. That's the most out of everyone here. I'm like, what? So
that is too awesome.
I just kind of fell into that role. And the show's called By the Rapids. I highly recommend it if you want to see just like a goofy show. It was done by the Aboriginal People's Television Network. And it's
called what?
By the Rapids.
By the Rapids. Okay.
That was my first job. And I did everything on that show. I designed half the props. I did all the special effects. I rigged half the characters. I did the character rotations, all the mouth charts and hands. And it was just, there were so few of us and nobody really knew what we were doing. So I got my fingers in every pot. And because I'm just curious and I want to learn more, I was just like, man, I'm just going to try this and see how it goes. And there was no one to stop me because there is no leader. We were like making it up as we went. And because of that, by the time I actually got a real job, I didn't learn from someone how to use the program. I was forced to solve all my problems myself. And there was like 4 of us in the rigging department that we just like, we'd help each other problem solve, and we'd make stuff up as we went. Everything was held together by duct tape and prayers. But the show got made, and it was like the best show I've ever worked on to this day, because it was just such a fun guerrilla project. Whereas the next studio I went to immediately after that was working on the show called Wildcrats, as doing compositing and effects. And that's all I did. They just sat me in the corner and they're like, okay, here's your compositing. When that's done, help out the effects guy. And that's all. So when I finished my work for the week, if there's nothing left to do, they were like, well, just busy yourself. I'm like, what do you mean, busy myself? Can I do something else? And they're like, oh no, there's other people doing those things. You can't switch jobs in the middle. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
So let me interrupt real quick. So you're still using the repaint on this one?
Yeah. I'm just painting in some highlights. I always do the darks first because it's easy to slap on circles on top of circles.
Yeah, I'm totally borrowing or stealing that.
Yeah,
because I'm going, this looks so awesome. It's like I normally go backwards. It's like, okay.
Oh, this is the fastest way I could think of. I was working on one show and a guy came from the animation department. He's like, can you redraw me this rope? I'm like, I'm sorry. And he's like, well, this rope needs to be different. Like, it needs to be, because this was before Deformers happened. So if you wanted a new rope, you had to draw it. So his rope was, say, doing this. Oh, I've got repaint on. So he had this rope and he needed like this rope. I'm like, well, why do you really need me to come help you? But the thing was, it had lines on it.
Oh man.
So he had this kind of rope. And he thought he'd have to somehow meticulously draw lines on the rope because he didn't know about this button. I'm like, do you draw lines on your ropes? Do you actually like draw these details on stuff? Is that because seriously, okay, kids, if you learn nothing today, don't draw details on your rope. Just do this with your repaint brush. Now you got a rope with stripes. There you go.
That is awesome.
And this is the stuff that the students don't know. And they come out, I'm the best in my class. And then they can't draw a rope. I'm like, just get out of my studio. It all comes with just experience. Reading the tooltips. If you need to do something, man, read the tooltips. Check the help menu. You'll never know what you'll learn.
What was that? I like and dislike at the same time that I've never actually worked in a studio environment. I've done projects, but it's usually just me, and I might grab a couple of people who are from a studio and go, hey, draw this for me, or draw this character better, or here's my stick figure, make it look pretty. But a lot of times I'll come in and go, I want to do this. And what I've noticed, the weird part is I have studio friends that'll still reach out to me and go, hey, how would I do this? Or how would I do this effect? And it's kind of like, let me think about that. What if we did this? It's like, and it feels neat, but it's at the same time, I so want to go and sit in the studio when they go like, how'd you do that? That was cool.
Yeah.
There's like, I have a lot of friends that work on Archer, and I've never asked, but I probably didn't go like, I want to peek over your shoulder one day. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, for sure. That's the best thing about being in a studio is definitely just going to that guy who's better than you and being like, hey man, do you mind if I just pick your brain for a bit? Or just like,
Right.
and we've got lots of guys that worked on shows back in the 80s when they were all on paper and stuff, and they brought in reams of paper from the show that they worked on, and they're like, oh, here's my animation for that movie I worked on, and it's just like thousands of pieces of paper that you can just drool over and like roll them, and you're just like, oh my god, this animation was real.
That's that reminds me when I was telling you about Michael Durrett. We're chatting back and forth, and I said, well, yeah, I want to talk about like Illustrator and vector stuff and how the world has changed, and probably leading up to the day that I'm going to interview you, I'll maybe start drawing out maybe Gene Simmons' eye from that Kiss album. Would you be cool with that? And he goes, yeah, sure. He says, I don't know if you know, but we did a lithograph of that album like last year, and I actually did rebuild that in Illustrator. Do you want me to send you my file?
Oh, cool.
And I was just like,
yes, please.
Yes. I was like, and I was telling him, I think I wrote him, I was like, I said, I'm a huge fan of yours, and I'm also a huge fan of, this is when Prince was still alive, I was like a huge fan of Prince. I think I'd be more freaked out if I met you in person than Prince. So in short, hell yes, I want to see your file. It's like, do you know how awesome you are? It's like good grief.
I'm the same way. I have like art people that I'm totally obsessed with. Like I have every one of Steven Silver's books. I'm just like totally obsessed with him. And all his podcasts where he's like, just work hard, you can do it. He's like a drill master. It's like, yeah, you're like the best. And then someone's like, oh, I met this guy from a movie whose name you can't remember. And I'm like, I don't even care who that is.
Yeah. It's like Steven Silver is like literally they're some of my my bastard brain children who have yet to raise. I was looking at his work and go like, if I could have someone design these characters, you know, feel like it's like Steven Silver or someone who admires him enough to be a clone. It's like make it look like something he would do, because that's awesome.
Yeah, I love his stuff, and his attitude and all the stuff he puts out. That's just like follow your dreams sort of things. Like I love that stuff. Yeah. Whenever I'm down, I just listen to one of these like screamy guys. What do they just do? Deactivated. And who's just like, just do it, just work harder, you can do it. And I'm just like, yeah, I can, woo.
It's like my people that I listen to, and I haven't listened to them in a while, Bobby Chu, who does these awesome things of like, it's almost. Oh,
I know Bobby Chu.
It was like literally people refer to him as like, it's when he speaks, it's Chuism. it's like
I've got a great Bobby Chu story about when he made me cry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bobby Chu made you cry?
Yeah. Oh, I was an infant. When I first went to college, I literally left my home island and with a duffel bag full of clothes, and I left everyone I knew and everything I'd ever known to move to Toronto to become an animator, like to follow my goals in life. Okay. And I met Bobby Chu about a year after I'd moved here, and I was still terrified. I'd never been in a city before. I moved here. I'd never like even lived on my own or anything like that. And I was convinced that I would be a failure because that's the type of person I am. And that my family would lose the family farm that they lived on for 200 years. And then my nan would be homeless. So I was pretty stressed out in college. And I met Bobby Chu on his subway sketching. And he's really anti-school. Like, and he starts telling me that I chose the wrong school and that it was such a waste of money and time and I'd never learn anything. And
oh, wow.
He just goes on this huge, like he basically just went on his anti-school rant to a person who was in school and afraid that I was going to fail at life. Like it was the wrong audience for sure.
Oh my gosh.
So I went home and I was just like, I'm gonna fail at life. I made all the wrong decisions. My nan's gonna be homeless. So that was my first Bobby Chu experience.
That is awesome.
Yeah, his stuff is really good, but I'm not a fan. I do watch it though, because I'm not gonna let you being a jerk prevent me from learning from you. That's not smart. You give me your knowledge, Bobby Chew.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so that's my Bobby Chew story.
That is five kinds of awesome. Because I'm thinking like, yes, and it's so pure and spiritual. I'm like, actually, he made me cry. What?
Yeah, no, he was so mean.
Oh my gosh, that is.
He's one of those people that kind of has blinders on, and he's really good. He's really good because he works like a dog. Like you can't take that away from him. His art is fantastic, and he's one of the most hardworking people on the planet. But so I think sometimes he's a little bit callous to the people in his purview. Yeah, so yeah, it wasn't a great introduction. And of course, I was so excited to meet someone who, you know, was out in studios and working and like doing stuff in real life. And then, yeah, he just shattered my dreams. But you can't win them all.
I think I am nowhere near where Bobby is, but I think the one of the worst things. I remember being a student. The school I went to. I later, a few years after I graduated, like I never left the schools. Like I graduated, then I started teaching community education classes there, and then eventually, the new head of the department says, "Hey, are you still interested in teaching in the department?" Yes, I am. So I remember being a student and hearing one of my classmates said the professor said to them, they looked at their work and they said, "Rethink your career." And I remember going, "Oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever heard." And then as a professor, I was kind of laid back, but not. Yeah. Like I said, I would give a project like, we're going to do something in Photoshop. So yeah, next week, because it was a small little section of a class that I was a guest instructor on, just to show these people how to use Photoshop. And so I said, next week, bring in a rough sketch of a self-portrait. You can even do it on notebook paper. I wanted this size, pen and ink, just kind of very rough, just your ideas, and bring it in the next week. And so I remember a student comes in and they're like, I was like, and looking at everyone's work, and they're like, "I don't have it." I was like, "Rethink your career." I was like, I asked for a rough sketch. I didn't ask for a polished piece. I said a rough sketch, and you took a week and you couldn't give me a rough sketch.
You could have drawn it on the bus on the way here.
Like, you could have sat outside class, like, boom, here's my happy face.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it's not that important. You rethink your career, and it's just like you find. I think those wee moments. I don't know. I think there are people that I didn't realize that actually. One of my good friends, Kayla, was talking about this, and we didn't realize it at the time, but we're chatting recently, and she's saying that, "Oh my God, like I would come home crying every day. I'm like, he hates me." I was like, and I'm going, wait, and I'm going, I don't even remember having her in class. So I was like, I was probably walking around critiquing stuff. So it's like, he hates me. I don't know why he doesn't like me. I was like, I'm not here to be friendly. I'm here to teach you.
Yeah, my favorite teachers were the brutal ones, but not mean ones. Because I was talking to a friend the other day, because I've had a few people message me now and be like, can I send you a rig to look over? And you know, I'm totally not opposed to that if someone wants some rigging critique. The only thing is, if it's going to take more than a few paragraphs to revise this thing, right. I don't know if I have time. You know, I want to help, but it depends on my schedule. So definitely, I'll respond to people if they send me something, even if it's, you know, I wish I had the time to do this, but here's a good reference or something like that. But my friend was saying, are you mean like that? We rip it to shreds. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. If you need to rip this thing apart and rebuild it from scratch, that's not mean. That's it. It needs to be rebuilt. If someone builds a car and they make it out of fruit and duct tape and, crap they find around their house and pillow cushions and stuff, and they go to, to sell that on the market with, a Honda, they're going to say, well, we can't use this because it's not safe and it's also a train wreck. And the same thing goes with a rig. If you can't do the basic functions of what needs to happen with this rig, it has to be ripped apart and done again. That's not me being mean.
Right.
That's just the truth. And if you're the type of person where the truth will shatter you, then like studio animation is definitely not something you should put on your to-do list. Because like I said, you can do the most perfect thing that's ever been animated, like the literal best animation that's ever happened. But if it's not what the director saw in his vision,
right,
he'll tell you to redo it. You'll just get thrown out.
So I have a question. Are you doing this purple smoke as in like a stylized smoke, or are you going to be changing colors later?
I always start in something that's very clear to see.
Okay.
So, you know, if this was going to be all boring and gray, I wouldn't work in 3 shades of very similar grays just because it's too hard to see what's happening.
Okay.
Why does it keep turning that on? There we go. Right now I'm just going through and checking to make sure that things are working. Like here, this poof, you follow it. First, it's got a wobble. See, so here it's up here, then it wobbles down and goes back up. So that doesn't make any sense. And then so it's just following a really strange trajectory. And here it wobbles again. So it's going up and now it's going down. So if my explosion or whatever it is, it's in green so you can see. So if this is supposed to be going out this way, then this should be following that. It shouldn't be going like this.
Right.
So that's why I just keep switching back and forth. Like just going back and forth like this, because I'm looking for those wobbles and those weirdnesses. Because little things like this in here where it's breaking up, if these kind of break up in a weird way and it's not going super, like here it's getting a little shorter, that's not really something that stands out if you just do this. But this wobbly one, if you just watch this one guy here, I really think that guy's standing out as a problem. See him? He's just so wobbly. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's just taking out these crazy wobbles and anything that doesn't look good. If you can play it this fast with a poof and it doesn't look weird, you're fine. Because you're gonna blur it. So
is wobble your word? Or is that an industry word? No,
that's just what describes it in my head. Like I said, effects is such a strange department to be in. It doesn't have the same history as character animation does, because it's like I said, it's a forgotten department. Even currently, and on most of the shows I've worked on, I'm not even on the schedule. So they have character animations on schedule. Oh, I'm on the wrong layer now. And so they know when their stuff is supposed to be done, and layout is on the schedule. Effects is not on there. So I just guess when my stuff is supposed to be finished. And so far it hasn't been wrong. But there's usually only 1 or 2 people in a department, unless it's like a real expensive ramped up show where they're pumping out episodes real fast. And then they'll have maybe 3 or 4 people in the department, but each person's working on their own episode. So it's not a pipeline like the character animation is. So you kind of just learn from picking it up randomly out of books, or if I went to a new studio and they had a catalog of effects, stock effects, I'd go through all of their stock effects and see what I could learn from them, check out their timing, check out their drawings, stuff like that. But there's no like formal training like the character animators have. It's a weird position.
That's interesting. I got a question for you because I'm curious. I'm kind of curious. When I
just cut out. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
There's weird little drops happening. I was connected with my phone. My phone decided to like reinstall, and then Then I
That's
was like,
always the way.
I'll switch over. It's like I switched over to the Wi-Fi. I was like, then the Wi-Fi does weird thing. I was like, why are you doing this? So, what was I saying?
Question.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. The industry I work in, I guess, is like the whole little online education, and there's this whole argument of don't teach any more people how to teach online because it's getting saturated. I'm going, but everyone should be teaching online. So it's like, so my point is to you, are you working? Are you just doing all these just for? Are you actually going to catalog anything? Are you going to release anything that's like, hey, here's this thingy? Or are you working on anything, or do you want to talk about that at all?
I don't have plans to do that at all. Like really, the YouTube channel is as far as I got in my head in terms of plans.
Okay.
But to me, I think knowledge should be free. I think it should be shared. And I've had people like, aren't you afraid if you teach everyone how to do this, that you'll undercut yourself and like there'll be more people out there? And I really don't, because the thing I'm hired on is not because I can do special effects or because I can do rigging. It's because I work like a dog, I'm efficient, I'm on time, and I'm not a jerk. Like, people are going to keep hiring me because I'm a good employee, not because I have this knowledge, which anyone, if they take the time to read the tooltips and put the hours in, they could learn it. I don't think that animation or effects or any of this is unattainable to anybody, even without formal education. And when I was trying to get into the industry, this is what I wanted, was the channel that I'm making, is just the information I could find, because it wasn't there. Like, and I mean, I came from a place that didn't have art class in school. I was all self-taught. I was just drawing out of magazines, like whatever I could get my hands on, stuff from the library, because we didn't have books in the house. Like the Reader's Digest, I'd draw out of the Reader's Digest magazine. I definitely didn't come from one of those art families who had access to like museums, and internet wasn't a thing until I was, starting to get into high school and stuff, or junior high. So I want to create the thing I wish I could have searched for when I was in college and I was just like a baby animator and I wanted to learn, because there's no tutorial that's going to teach you how to do this stuff. It can help you on your journey, but time and effort, that's the thing you have to put in yourself. There's no magic button. So if somebody can come from behind and watch my tutorial and somehow gain my 10 years of experience, by all means, take my job. You deserve it. You deserve it more than I do, because you worked hard and you're better at it than I am. But I really don't think that having access to information is going to flood the market with things, especially 2D. Like it's just the time it takes to learn how to draw or to do perspective, or like all the things I've spent, decades learning. You're not going to learn that from a YouTube video. It's just not a thing.
Fair enough.
And then if everybody has access to it, the best player wins, not the person who has access to the multi-million-dollar school,
Okay.
Especially in the States, like education is so unattainable for artists. It's insane. Like, how are you you're gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars learning to be an animator? Are you crazy? You know what? We don't make that kind of money.
I was trying to make that argument recently, and people got upset with me. It was like,
you should go for the love of the art.
I am shocked that it's like, Tony, you were talking about going to art school, and now you're saying that don't go to art school. I said, well, in this day and age, yeah, because
not in America. Look outside America.
With what you can learn online, and with the different, like, for lack of a better reference, schoolism. So it's like,
schoolism is great. Honestly, Bobby Chew's so good. Go learn from that jerk. He doesn't need to be nice to be good. He doesn't need to be nice to be good, and you don't need to like the person you're learning from.
there was a person, and I have a friend who's been in the animation industry, like, and always worked on stuff, and he was talking to me because we were talking about like what your personality is and everything like that, and I was talking about how certain people, like I have a good friend that does character voices, and like somebody said one time, like they said, I don't like the way he talked to you. He didn't. It sounded weird. It's like, I said, I know what he brings to the table. This guy is freaking Mel Blanc, you know. Yeah. And I said he could pretty much curse me out several times before I'd be like, okay, that's cool. It's like, I know what you're bringing to the table. So this guy, my other friend, long story to get here, but my other friend was talking about when he worked for Ralph Bakshi, was one of the only times he actually yelled in the studio because Ralph Bakshi had made a comment about his mom or something. And so he goes, "You will not talk about my mother." It's like, I'm thinking like, but at the same time, it's Ralph Bakshi. It's like, please don't do that, sir. It's like, I need to learn stuff. But it's like, really wild.
Yeah, that's definitely true. If you're the best at what you do, you can be a jerk. But that's not my stick. I'm not the best.
I think that's
I gotta be a little nicer.
It's like I looked at your. It's like you're one of the people, honestly, that I look at your. When I was in college, like me and my roommate, it was my first year of college. Starting off as an illustration major, we would see someone else's work, and it would be incredible, and we would go, "You bastard!" And and so we started this whole thing of like. And we'd see somebody's working like, that's a 5 bastard piece. Like, it's worth me calling you a bastard 5 times. It's like, and so to this day, I see these people's work like, they're very unkind words that I'm calling you, sir. It's like, but I really like the work you've done. It's like, it's like, we're not rated G here, sir. It's really good.
Well, I believe talent is real because I went to school with talented guys. Like, I went to school with this one guy who he just, basically just wiggle his hand and his art would be so good. And we had a class for in-betweening and cleanup. And I had this little Italian teacher and she was ruthless. The first class, she comes in, she's about maybe 5 feet tall, and she's got long hair and she's just cute as a button, and she comes in with all her assignments and she's like, "Hey, my little kittens, I just want to tell you that everybody failed their assignment, but it's okay because you can try again." And she literally failed the entire class. She's like, "This is not good enough." And then the next class, she might have passed 2 people.
Holy crap.
So her cleanup, like she works for Disney as a cleanup artist. Like, she's worked on The Princess and the Frog, and it's like, she's amazing. She really knows her stuff. And by the time you got out of her class, your cleanup is on point. But this talented guy, he'd spend 3 or 4 hours on his cleanup. One class took me 22 hours to draw 2 pictures of Bugs Bunny.
Oh, wow.
To get a pass in her class, because she looked at the thickness of the line. Like, if your line was like this, but it was supposed to be like and that's probably got a little bit to do, well, I'm so anal retentive, but if your line's supposed to look like that and it looks like this, like, that's wrong. Like, you're wrong because this is correct. And when you're working on pencil and paper, that's the reality. You have to be that tight when you're doing cleanup, or else you get Beauty and the Beast, that wobbly face you got. If you want to see good cleanup, look at Mulan, because it is pristine. It is incredible how good the cleanup is on that movie. And if you want to see bad cleanup, watch Beauty and the Beast, because it's not as good.
Now, if you mentioned this before, where did you go to school?
Oh, I went to Max the Mutt Animation School in Toronto.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I loved it. It was the perfect school for me. It's either people who go there either drop out in the first year or 2, or they love it. Like, there's no in between. Our starting class was 44 people and our graduating class was 8.
Okay.
Like, it's not a joke. It's a hardcore school. And that's why I went there. Like, I left, like I said, I never had an art class before I went there. And I sent out my little portfolio, and they had to write an essay with it. And in the essay I wrote, like, I know my drawings are trash. Like, I've been trying my best, but there's no art here. There's no art supply store. I go to Walmart. That's the best we got. So if you think you can help me to get to where I want to go, like, please, you know, let me come to your school. And I got a phone call, and they did the interview, and they're like, your portfolio is terrible. I'm like, yep, totally agree. And they're like, and your essay is why we're taking you.
Awesome.
Yeah. They're like, you know, you're bad. And that's important. That's a really good thing. And it's true. If you know you're bad, you can help yourself get better. If you think you're great and you're bad, you're in so much trouble. Oh my God. Even if you're pretty good, but you don't know it, like, you think you're the best, but you're only pretty good, you're never going to be better than pretty good.
Right.
And that's where the talented kids are now.
I used to tell my I was teaching a class of future graphic designers, and they were just beyond cocky. And I just said one day, I said, you guys are really good, but you could be awesome if you didn't already know that you're good. It's like, and they just kind of looked at me with this, like one of the, like, you'll figure out what I'm saying in a little bit. It's like, it'll catch up to you. It's like, and when it does, it's like, it's nice to have people come back to you like, I finally got it, or in some people's cases, you see that they've totally changed careers. I know one person that I used to try to warn them about stuff. There's two seniors, so they are constantly like weeded out. And they said, but Tony, man, when you were in school, you know, you smoked weed. And it's like, didn't you feel like you got your best ideas when you're doing that? I said, all right, let's break this down. Let's play like you're at the club. You're at a club, you're dancing around, and you see like this young woman. Like, she's okay, but she's kind of for lack of a better word, she's kind of a dog. And I said, then you drank a few drinks, you smoked a few drinks. She starts to look a little bit better. And by the end of the evening, she's fantastic. Those are the eyes you're looking at your artwork with. And so I'm like trying to explain this to them. And I look back on that conversation, and one of them now he's not an artist, he's a police officer. And it's like, I'm going, told you. It's like you should have took a little more time to just do the art.
Oh, just allowing yourself to be bad is so freeing. It's so rewarding. And allowing yourself to create bad art is so freeing as well. Because I didn't know how to sketch until I went to college, and I met, what was his name? His name totally escapes me now, but I had a life drawing teacher who's like, your sketchbook is not for art. That's not its job. Its job is to study. Its job is to explore and to get better. So if you get one good drawing out of the sketchbook, that's all you need. That's great. That's a bonus, because that's not its job. And being able to separate sketching from drawing, because they're different, just blew my mind. And it totally opened up like my ability to learn at all.
It just blew my mind. Good grief.
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap.
Like, what do you mean you don't need to do it right on the first try? Why didn't anybody tell me?
I literally don't draw enough. I have to force myself to do that. And it's like, it sucks that I started off as an illustration major right now and I barely can draw a stick figure. So it's like,
drawing is always what I've been in this gig to do, which is funny that I went into animation as a major. But it's funny, I was talking to life drawing models when I was doing life drawing in college, and they said you can always tell who's supposed to be an illustrator because they want the pose to be longer. So if it's a 10-minute pose, they're like, oh, I'm not done. And he's like, and you can tell when you're in animation class because by 10 minutes time, they're like looking at books or they're looking at the ceiling. They've been done for 10 minutes. Like, because they're just like, bam, bam, I got to get this drawing done. I need to do 500 of these. I ain't got time to be detailing shit. And it's so true. Awesome. Like if you're like a teenager right now, you're like, I don't know which major I should go in. Just see how much time, like if you spend more time on the leaves on the tree than you spend figuring out how the tree should be related to the perspective or whatever, then you're probably an illustrator. If you've got 500 trees, you're an animator.
Ironically, I was trying I started calling him the illustrator. The artist slash illustrator slash animator that he reached out to me, and I trained him how to animate in Toon Animate, and then we started actually doing projects together. And almost all the work you see, if it looks like it's really, really nicely drawn and it's on my channel, he probably drew it. So I always get on his case. I was like, I'll say, Chris, give me a rough. And so he gives me this detailed thing like, Chris, you're spending way too much time. I just need a rough. Chris, the thing that you would sketch out in 5 seconds, your 5 second things, your 5 second things look like my 5 minute things. So I just need something really quick. And it's like, oh my God, Chris, stop! Don't color it. Just it's like because his background is in illustration.
Yeah,
and I love him, but it is so hilarious.
Oh, it's definitely illustrator.
I am geeking out of that. It's weird. Now before blurring it, this looks very it's gelatinous or wet.
Yeah.
But the blur,
it starts to look like clouds once you blur it. And I'd probably even blur this more. The shows I work on, like I said, they're 3D, 2D hybrids. So usually they'd be blurred, and then that's not true. Friggin' Wacom. And then they'd probably like put a transparency on it. So they'd have like some, just a little bit so that the background shows through, because it makes it look a little bit realer if you can see through the background.
Right.
Yeah,
I am totally kicking out on this. I've never blurred smoke. I've always done the hard edge, and I think I've always got some sort of line around it. But that is really nice.
Yeah, it really just depends on the style. Like I said, some shows you really need a hard edge outline stuff. And now that I've told you this, the next time you watch a cartoon, you're going to see the poof.
Yeah,
no one sees the poof. And I kind of love that about being an effects animator, because one, by the time they get to effects, the episode might have been in production for 6 or 8 months. So the director doesn't care. He just wants it to go away and be done. So I'm like, hey, can I do literally anything I want? And they're like, yeah, just get out of my face, just as long as it's a poof. And if I make something, like I said, I made some like overt errors where I was like, I'm the star of the show, everything's got to be huge. And the director's like, Tracy, you got to calm down. I'm like, okay. But for the most part, they kind of leave me alone. And I really like that. I got a little splash here I can throw on. Yep.
Good grief.
So this is one of the things, like when I say that you try and make things not look so samey. So this one's the highest, then we got a medium, then we got a low, and you got a skinny and you got a fat. So you just try and get that the different shapes in there in everything you do, no matter if it's splash or a poof or anything. And you have to constantly be aware of it. I got some fire. So this was
really damn it
dragon.
Really? Seriously? Is that true?
Oh, it doesn't have any blurs on it. So this is one of those things where you'd throw you'd slap in some glows. Let's see what it looks like.
Have you done any animation for games yet?
No, that's one thing I haven't gotten into at all. Actually, a friend of mine he's into games. He left working in the studio so that he could go be a game designer with his buddy. And I'm going to interview him on my channel. I'm talking to him tomorrow, actually. So he'll be able to answer some questions about making the switch and being a game artist as opposed to TV artist, because he was a director and storyboard guy. So yeah, here's some fire. You just slap a whole pile of glow on there, and
so this is glow and not blur.
Yeah, this one's glow.
Okay.
Probably bloomed it out a bit too much, but whatever. If you're gonna throw modules on there, just go big.
But yeah, it's like that's the one thing I think I barely only use the blur for like if I'm like shifting the camera or focus or something like that, or I'm showing something in a distance. But never thought about using it on explosions.
Yeah, you could use these things on everything. Like I did compositing for a long time, so it wasn't a long time, but for a while. So just getting camera distance and stuff, you throw blurs on there. But I mean, effects, you can throw all this stuff on there too, and it makes it look better. Because I mean, these are the difference between this and this. Like it's huge. For this, I mean, this iconic thing that'd look all right if it was an iconic show. That'd be done, right?
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
Hey, Izzy, you want to see some fire? Hey, Izzy, do you want to come see some animated fire? She's playing Atari game. Like we have like a little TV Atari thing that we bought, and
nice.
She's having breakdowns because she can't get it to work right. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? That's okay. You're overheating, kid. Calm down. I love you.
They went to photo man. And I just want to show us and I don't like it.
It's okay, baby. It's just a game.
I can't get through one of them. And I'm amazing one of them.
Aww.
And I can't do it.
See what Tracy made for you? It's okay. She's making a face for you. Isn't that cool? Say hi, Tracy.
Hi.
Hold on.
I think we need a bigger
I'm wearing
nose.
headphones. So here, put the headphones on. Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. You like drawing?
I do.
Drawing's the best. I love to draw cartoons.
I do too.
I could go all day. This guy likes hamburgers.
Oh, those 3 kinds are awesome.
This is my favorite thing to do. I love to go to the park and draw the people there.
Cool.
You always see some lady who's like doesn't want to be there. She's on her phone.
I still would love to see an animation of stuff that simple.
Yeah, there's some really good simple animators out there. My friend Tabitha Fisher, she did a short. I should interview her. And her character design is very, very simple, like super simple like this. But they're so emotive. Like they get everything across that they need to.
Okay.
And the animation is really simple. She did a one for the Canadian National Film Board, I can't remember what it's called, but she got a grant to do a cartoon, and it's very, very simple like this.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Izzy, say bye-bye. I gotta go now. Say bye.
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 Feel better? Feel better? Wasn't that cool?
Cartoons always make things better.
She actually worked, didn't you? Because you worked on Happy Ever After, right? Or what is it?
Ever After High.
Ever After High. Thank you, Dan. One of those.
Yeah.
She works on Ever After High.
I did.
Or she did.
Yeah, it's not in production now, but that's where this fire is from, actually.
Thank you.
Wee. Yeah, I can draw a few cartoons for the team. I got a 2-year-old. I know what it's like.
It's like it was. I remember she was in the summer camps, like. And her mom and I met in art school. So every day at summer camp, the counselors would run out to the car. Oh my God, she's so talented with art. Thank you. And so after the 5th time, it was like, yes, her mother and I met in art school.
You're like, stop telling her that. She'll never get credit if you keep telling her that.
It's like, she's okay. She's like,
yeah, you gotta go down. This is another one I did forever after when the Swan Princess transforms.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so this is before compositing gets to it. So there's a lot of blurs and glows that happen. And these are temp glows because on this show, they actually had a team of compositors. So I'd send all these mats in, just the flat shapes, and then they bring it into either Nuke or After Effects. And then they blow it out and they just throw on all the compositing afterwards.
Okay.
So I'd send them 2 versions. I'd send the director this version because if there wasn't any pretty on it, like sparkles and stuff, then he'd just outright be like, this is not good enough. Like, it needs to be better. Because he didn't understand that there was another step. And then the compositors would blow it out for the actual episode. So you can see this sort of stuff if you watch the show.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, effects is so fun because you never know. They're going to be like, you know, you need to have a mushroom man that gets ripped apart into 2 pieces and there's goo everywhere. And then the next show you work on something like this where you need an ultra pretty, sparkly feathers and flowers. And so it's such a fun job to get into.
Okay. Well, I am kind of weird. Like I said, this has been kind of, I think we had fun and just kind of ran around this. About to wrap it up for now. This has
we've been going for a while.
it's like the one thing I love about anyone that I know, almost everyone I know, whether musician, artist, whatever, everyone I know is extremely creative, and everyone that I know, we'll be like, if I say, hey, can you get on the phone for 5 minutes? 2 hours later, it's like, oh yeah, all right, dude, no, I've got to go now. Really, I got to go. So yeah, man, this is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out to me.
That's great. Like I said, it's I saw the incredible tutorials, and then you're talented on top of that, and it's like, and I'm looking at.
But I'm not talented. That's what I want everyone to know. I was the worst. I was their like at college. I was their like wishful thinking pick. I was not their top tier. I was never the best one in college at any point. But that's not the level of success. That's not what success means. Like, you don't need to be Steven Silver to make a living doing this. You don't need to be, and you don't need to go to college being the best one there. And as long as you know you're not the best, you will get better.
I like that.
Moral of the story.
Very cool. Well, again, I'm going to be popping up like you guys have, I'm going to send the description as well as in the little call outs that I've got to go in and add. But be sure to subscribe to Stylus Rumble.
Yes.
Take a look at her tutorials. They're incredible. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot even on this chat here. It's been pretty cool. But yeah, this has been awesome. We have to figure out what's the next thing we're going to tackle. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be with me, but I want to throw this out there because when you did the fountain, and then you did something else that reminded me of it. I need, because I actually have to do a project on this. So if you want a suggestion, here's one. I need to do, what was it? And oh God, Family Guy did this weird thing. And so I always have to look at that as a reference, but where everyone is like, they're doing this constant little fountain of vomiting.
Oh yeah. I could totally do something like that. It's easy peasy.
Yes, I would love to see the way you handle that.
Vomit fountain, I got you.
Vomit fountain. Like have different what is it, chunks of carrots and celery if you want. I don't know. But
yeah, that's why effects is the best, because that's a thing that happens in your life.
All right, Tracy, thank you so much for joining me. This has been awesome, and thank you for helping cheer up my kid. That was awesome.
For sure.
And this has been Tony Ross for Tonyteach.com. Remember, keep it simple, make it perfect. If you don't have time to make it perfect, rethink the idea. Have a good one.